Welcome, adventurers! You've made it to the Wind Down, the live stream at the end of the Geekverse. It's a chill place to hang out here as the sun sets on another day. We're here to have a little chat, reflect on the day's successes, and prepare for a better tomorrow. So settle in with your favorite beverage this evening.
May I tempt you with a cup of chamomile?
Why, thank you, Dory. I would love a mug of tea this evening, but perhaps you would rather have some coffee, though I do recommend a decaf this late in the evening. Or perhaps maybe a cold brew is more your style.
Oh, no thank you, Dory. A little red wine. For me, I think.
Sounds like an excellent choice, Gandalf. Whatever you want, it's yours. Could I offer you a bourbon, a martini, an old-fashioned, or something perhaps a little stronger? Ugh. Well, I mean, if that's really your thing, then okay, but I hope we can find something a bit better than that.
Romulan ale. Why, Bones, you know this is illegal.
I only use it for medicinal purposes.
All right, now we're talking. I'm Heath, and I'll be your host. Welcome to my home. Come one, come all. Writers, artists, sculptors, storytellers, board gamers, streamers, dungeon masters, fans of sci-fi, fantasy, geeks of all kinds. Whatever your fandom, you have a place here. For soon it will be time for another long rest so that we can recover our hit points, our spells, and our abilities, so we'll be ready to fight on for another day tomorrow. But first, we all need a little time to reflect, because you've survived another long, perilous day of wilderness treks, dungeoneering, and random encounters, and that's worth celebrating. Let's tell the tale. It's time for the Wind Down. It will improve your life. It really will. Give it a chance. Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Let me see if I can find the controls to the fog machine. They're not sitting where they should be. Here it is. Let's see if it's warmed up and ready to go. Oh, it is. There we go. All right. We got the fog machine going. Life is good. Welcome to the Wind Down. It is so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. My day's been kind of crazy. Didn't exactly get done what I was trying to do. We'll talk about that. But, I would still say good day. But cascading impacts of things that happened that kind of out of order. But here we go. So we're going to breathe and then sip. Don't try to breathe while you're sipping. You'll choke. Everybody got their favorite beverage ready? I actually have a glass of wine again tonight. So not AF today. We'll talk about that. But we'll go on. So let's breathe in, deep in, complete exhale. Deep in, and then complete exhale. Now let's take a sip of our favorite beverage. Wonderful, wonderful. That makes everything better about the evening. Let's remember why we're here. We are here to reflect on our day, figure out what went right, what went wrong, celebrate those things that went right. And if you didn't quite have the day you wanted to have, like I didn't, understand why, and then improve for tomorrow. And don't forget tomorrow's Thanksgiving. So I hope that you were very happy with your day. I hope that it went very well. I will also be taking questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I will be happy to talk about, not whatever you put in the chat, but I'll be happy to take questions and answer them if I can. We're celebrating victories today. So if you had particular victories today that you want to talk about, that maybe nobody else in your life cares about, but we do. Here, we can. We can be your group of friends who celebrate your victory. So if something happened in your life, even if nobody else cares about it, put it in the chat. We'll talk about it. We will celebrate. We will do that. Did you have a random encounter today? Did something strange happen to you? I did. I've got a random encounter to share. Do that a little bit later on the show, but I had a random encounter on the afternoon adventure today. That happened to me. I will share. All right. So let's talk about what happened today. For me, I'll share my day. And when you do this kind of thing, let's go to the auxiliary camera. Auxiliary camera. Go, auxiliary camera. And here we go. We take a look at the notebook. We can start to see what happened. And if you're tracking your time and you're tracking your productivity like this, you start to realize different things, the things that actually make you have a good day, or if you have a bad day. Oh, we got good day coming in. GD, fairly GD, Keith says. I didn't get 2 big tasks done for work, but I was still able to feel good about some other things that got done. Excellent. All right. I didn't get all of my big rocks done either. So I hear you. I feel you. But still fairly good. See, I would say for me, I'll put GD in the chat. I'm going to put GD in the chat. It was a good day, even though I do need to improve for tomorrow. But I would say today's a big day, even though I didn't get everything done. I would say good day. So I'm putting GD in the chat. If you had a good day, GD in the chat is the way to go. But, and I've said this before, that it appears that as I'm tracking all of this, the key to getting what I want to get done in the day is sleep, getting sleep right. And then when you get up, if I get up at 4:45 in the morning and go to 5 and start working at the desk here at 5 o'clock, I get things done. I get my blue check marks. I didn't get my blue check mark today. I didn't check off a lot of boxes, but that was part of the reason, or actually a major reason why I didn't get to bed last night, was because I had to do the meeting with the action figures. 12-hour time difference. So it was early in the morning over there. It's late at night for me after the wind down. Had to get on the call, which was great. Now, that's something that needed to be done. I had to do it. I don't regret it. I mean, there's no problem. In order to do that, I had to take that meeting. But that was a long meeting that started at 9 o'clock p.m. my time. So if you start a long meeting at 9 o'clock at night, yes, I didn't get up at 4:45 in the morning. All right. Because unfortunately, I'm the kind of person who needs about 8 hours of sleep. I wish I were the kind of person who would just need 4 hours of sleep. I didn't. And then so that bleeds over, and then that impacts the rest of the day, which, had the cascading effect. So, I even forgot to weigh in this morning. Once I got up closer to the time of the morning grind. I'm not even sure what my weight was, but I'm feeling so much better. I've been losing weight, as you can see. And today when I was around the house working on things, I was like, man, I am feeling really good. I can tell that I lost the weight, and it makes me feel better. So it might do that for you. Maybe you need to lose weight. Like I said, maybe you need to gain weight. Talking to people who's like, I'm too scrawny. I need to gain weight. Okay, that might be your circumstance. Whatever it is, we're talking about just changing. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You do what you need to do to get where you want to go. You might need to gain weight. Your weight might be perfect. Stray says, good day. Good evening, everyone. So GD, Stray had a good day. Stray is GD today. Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Stray. So I'm not even sure how much I weigh, but I'm feeling good. And I'm looking forward to getting down to the target weight. I'm not exactly sure what the target weight. I mean, it could be as low as 165, could be 170. I was at 184.3 yesterday. I'm just going to go by feel. But, I need to buy new clothes. So, one thing you could do is you could give yourself a reward. I've got to buy new clothes. My jeans, especially pants, they're getting worn out. I need to buy new clothes. But I was not doing it because I was like, if I buy them now, which was like in the past few months, I'm buying them at a heavy weight, and I don't want to do that. But it was difficult for me to lose the weight. So now I am. So I've got that in my head. I'm like, if I get down, when I start feeling the way that I want to feel, and I'm at that weight, whatever that is, that's why I don't have a dedicated goal. I have been as low as 155 in adult life, but that was, because I wanted to see if I could, control weight loss, but that was too low. I started looking emaciated, so I'm not going to go that low. I'm going to stop this time long before that. But I'm just going to go by feel, figure out when I feel good, and then when I feel good, I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to go buy new clothes, especially some new pants, and celebrate by doing that. All right? But don't know how much I weigh. Was I AF today? No, I was not. See, the problem is there's wine in the house. See, here's the thing. I feel like I have no self-control, whether it's, the bottle of wine that was sitting in the kitchen, or that's why I don't buy like Oreo cookies or ice cream or things like that. If I don't buy it, whether it's alcohol, dessert, sugar, or whatever it is, then I don't eat it. You know, that works for me. That's just my personal thing. If I buy it, well, then I eat it or drink it or whatever. And so the thing to do is just not to buy it. So, you know, so I decided to go ahead and have a glass of wine tonight since there was wine still here. Was I MBR? But if you were AF or SF, smoke free, whatever, put that in the chat. Put that in the chat. Let's celebrate. I also did not get done moving my big rocks. Here are my big rocks for the day. Sending out the Ritual 0.7 playtest. I sent that out. So if you were on the playtest list, you should have gotten the email a couple of hours ago that had version 0.7 of the rules in it. And I'm looking forward to the playtest here. Oh, Keith says chips are my downfall. I can't have them in the house. Yeah, I agree. I mean, chips, I can put away a bag of chips with sauce, or just like Lay's original, well, or any type of Lay's really. I eat original or vinegar chips or chips with sauce. Man, I hear you. Just better not have them through here. Oh, Access Your Inner Light says I chiseled through my 3 rocks. So you were MBR today. Inner Light, MBR, right? Moved big rocks. So we've got an MBR in the chat. Thank you, Inner Light. Congratulations. I got out the playtest, so I did that. I also prepped all of my Thanksgiving stuff for tomorrow because, like I said, I like being the kind of uncle who brings the pellet guns and things like that to the parties, the Thanksgiving parties or the holiday parties in general, or just family get-togethers, because the nieces and nephews like to shoot pellet guns. Other people like to shoot pellet guns too. So I got pellet guns, I got targets. So made sure I got out all the pellet gun stuff, made sure it was cleaned, make sure I had all of the supplies and already loaded them in the car, targets, everything like that. So that was a big thing. That's not work related, but always all your big rocks don't have to always be work related or creativity related. When you're coming up on a holiday like tomorrow, I want to be sure that, you know, all of that was taken care of. So we will be able to have a good time with the family tomorrow. So my Thanksgiving prep, which was prepping all of the firearms, the pellet guns and such, that got done. But what I didn't get done was publishing 10 or scheduling to be published 10 YouTube videos. I got 1 done. And then it was time for the wind down. I may try to do a few more of them tonight, so I may try to save that. I was researching how to actually get that done in a better way and a faster way, because that's been a big hang up. So the live streams have been great, but there are some clips of live streams I want to put out. There's still some stuff from behind the scenes of the cultists I've got to get out, but it seems like I get hung up. They get uploaded, but then there's other things that got to be done. It doesn't happen. So that's still a fight for me. I got to find a better process for that. So I was not MBR. If I had gotten that done, I was going to try to record some more morning grind assets, but that didn't get done. So I was not MBR. But morning grind, MBR. Excellent. Thank you so much. I was not CTA. CTA, call to adventure in the morning. See, I was not CTA this morning because I went to bed late because of the late night meeting. So that's why I wasn't up on time. That's why these other things didn't happen. I didn't even have core creative time today. So that's if I'm CTA. See, I was CTA here, I got the check. I was CTA here and got the check. So if I do that, then I get the check. But I was not CTA. So you didn't see me on Twitter or in the Discord server today. Watch rings. Let me check them. I typically charge. See, another system that I've got is I've been charging my phone. See, I'm not WR yet. I've got 1 more stand goal in order to be WR today. So after the morning grind, after the wind down here, I'm still going to try to be on it. I'm going to try to get that last stand goal so that I can complete all of my rings today. So I don't like having to go and work after the wind down. Don't want to, but maybe if I work for about 25, 45 more minutes after the wind down, I'll be able to knock those out, do the stand goal, and also knock out YouTube. That would be really great. So that's where my day stood. I guess I'll go ahead and check off that I'm doing, by the time all this is done, another hour of YouTube. Got Raven Keep stuff, got cleaning done. I am so happy about the kitchen. I am getting close. Like I said, in the last 6 months, housekeeping went to just I mean, it just became terrible. So I've been getting the kitchen cleaned. It's so nice to be able to look at this door here and see a clean kitchen. So the spending an hour a day working on cleaning has paid off. And then I went on my afternoon adventure as well. So Inner Light says, use a bowl. It provides for portion control. Yeah. I mean, that's a good idea. Instead of eating out of the bag or other things, eat out of a bowl. But then you can go get more chips and put them in the bowl. When your bowl becomes empty, you can go and get more. If they're not in the house, I don't eat them. Stray says, I had a very systematic. I had a very systematic morning. Congratulations. We're all about systems here. That is wonderful. Then I sat there and realized the rest of the day was free. It was an odd feeling. Oh, yeah, see, but odd feeling, but a good one, right? If you get everything done, and then you're like, wait a minute, I got it all done, and now it's still noon or 2 o'clock or something. I mean, it feels good, right? I've noticed that my afternoon adventure actually starts about lunchtime. It seems like that's been about right. I like to start at about lunchtime and then come back and do cleaning, because if I can be CTA in the morning, if I can answer the call to adventure, I can get a lot of work done between 5 o'clock in the morning and 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then everything is checked off except for my core creative time. And then I have guilt-free core creative time. In an ideal world, that's how it goes. If I can be up in the morning, then get work done, then have the afternoon to work on creative stuff guilt-free. Works for me. Inner Light says that's true, but if you're walking over to get more chips in your bowl, you're at least burning calories. Well, yes, you are at least burning some calories. I'm burning some calories by going from here to the kitchen. It's not many, but it's a few at least. All right, so that's my report on my day. That's what happened there. Do you have questions? I'll be happy to take questions. I can share what I was thinking about. I have some different things I was thinking about, but if you've had profound thoughts today, or even not necessarily profound thoughts, but thoughts that were stimulated you, we can talk about them as well here. I'm going to go over here. If it's really bad, put the chips in a time safe. Well, you could do that too. Or just put all food in a time safe, right? This is when food can be accessed. I've been working. I've really been eating about once a day. As far as scheduling time goes, I mean, I haven't had time to schedule more meals than that. So I've been eating about once a day. And that meal has been, when I go grocery shopping, a steak, 2 to 3 eggs. Steak and 2 to 3 eggs. That's the meal, right? A steak and 2 to 3 eggs. Our of Positive Fandom is here and says, Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Yes, Happy Thanksgiving. Now, see, tomorrow, when we're planning tomorrow, it is Thanksgiving. So you have to account for that. Like, remember, we're planning the day that's actually coming up. So when I'm planning tomorrow, when I'm looking at my time, obviously I'm not going to be able to do everything that I would ordinarily do tomorrow. But I'm going to plan, probably going to be, I've got about 4 hours of driving to do. It's going to be about 2 hours to get to my grandparents' house tomorrow. Then I've got everything, all the pellet guns loaded up and everything like that, and we'll have a good time and we'll have lunch. And then I've got a 2-hour drive back. So, there's going to be a lot of time tomorrow. It's taken up with Thanksgiving stuff. I will be streaming in the morning, 9:30 to 10:30, but everything's already packed in the truck. So as soon as I end streaming, my plan is to walk out of the door immediately and get over to my grandparents' house for Thanksgiving. But I got to account for that. And if you're being productive during the other days of the week and month, then it's no big deal. It's like, this is the holiday. This is Thanksgiving. You can go and do that guilt-free. You don't have to worry about anything. Keith says, we did an icebreaker before a meeting at work today, and that was a lot of fun. What was the best advice? What was the best advice you have received? So it was at the icebreaker, and you're asking me what's the best advice I have received. If you're asking me, let me think on that. I'm going to put that as a note here. I might have to. I have received. What's the best advice I have received? I'll think on that, Keith. I'll think on it. Stray. Oh, yeah. So that is the icebreaker. Okay. Well, I'll think on that and try to answer. Might need to think on that during one of the walks and then come back. Stray says, every time I see you heed the call early in the morning, I give my screen a fist bump to your message before I head off and start my day. Excellent, excellent. I'm proud of you, my dude. Thank you, Stray. Thank you. It's what I need. I needed some kind of public accountability because I can sit here. I realized over the several months that I can sit here and tell myself that, hey, I got to get up. I got to get to work. It's what I should be doing. But I needed some way to hold myself accountable. So that's what I decided on. If you are heeding the call to action with me, then chime in and we will all celebrate together on Twitter or in the Discord chat. Innerlight says, I think I've gotten all the card back designs done for the game I'm working on. Finished that today. Well, 90% of them at least. There are a few special powers I still need to card up. Yeah, that's great. The designs that you posted in the Discord server look great. They look great. Very exciting. So, I've been thinking about, we are on day, I believe this is day 24 of my test of live streaming. So I've been, I said, well, if I'm going to try live streaming, I will try it. One try is going to be 30 days. So I decided, well, let me try 30 days worth of live streaming. I believe we're on about day 24 now. So I'm thinking this going well because my philosophy is commit to one try. One try was 30 days of live streaming. Commit to one try. Find out what one try is. Commit to two, and 3 is better. So we're coming up on the end of 30 days of live streaming. I want to do something to celebrate 30 days of day 30 of live streaming. May do that. I'm having some ideas. And then, but I'm thinking, well, we spent a lot of time working things out. Might try to do another 60 days. The second try would be another 30 days, for a total of 60 days of live streaming. So might do that. And one thing we're talking about drama the other day, and like if this continues going and I keep live streaming and things like that, well, eventually we try. I'm anti-drama. But eventually there'd be some kind of drama. There'd be some kind of mistake. Something would be said that somebody didn't intend, or something like that. Some kind of embarrassment or something like that. And so I was wondering, and this is just thinking about it right here, should I plan to try to do something embarrassing? Should I try, put on the docket doing something that ordinarily I would be embarrassed about? There are things that people tell me that I'm not good at. But I was like, well, what if as part of this, I just tried doing something that would ordinarily be very embarrassing? Now, that's different from drama or something going wrong or something like that. But at least, maybe it's time to do something or plan to do something that would ordinarily be embarrassing. And we will see how it goes. I was thinking about it. Inner Light says, it's been going well for me. This has been a huge inspiration and catapulting fire. Thank you. I'm glad. I'm very glad that it has been. See, it has been for me. These past 30 days have been or past 24 days. We're not to 30 yet. But past 24 days, or whatever it exactly is, has been some of the most productive of my life. I mean, a lot of stuff has been happening. And it's I'm talking about compared to all of life. It's about 100,000 times better than what it had come in the 6 months before. So you missed the drama. Is that a good thing? You missed the drama. Well, I don't miss drama. I'm anti-drama. So I don't miss having drama. Especially if the drama is just a call to attention. Someone wants attention, so they generate drama. It's interesting. I've been working on the lighting in here, and my lights up here went out. I had them right this morning, and now for some reason they're out. But I was just noticing that when I move windows around on my screen, you can see the lighting change. The lighting change you're seeing right now is actually moving the notes around on the screen. Isn't it weird how even the screen that I'm looking at, I mean, it makes sense, but that's another thing to think about when I'm thinking about lighting and things like that, because here's lighting with the window arrangement in one particular way, so that's a lot of white space on the computer monitor, and then if I close that off by moving another window, I get darker. So that's really interesting. I wasn't planning for the effect of the screen in planning lighting schemes. We had a fantastic conversation last night, and I think we should continue some of that. I don't want to go, like I said, too late tonight because I might try to do another 25 or 45 minutes worth of work and finish my big rocks, hit my stand goal, and things like that. What do I want to talk about? Inner Light says, I thought you were just doing the plasma glow effect from the blog. Yeah, see, I was thinking that I needed the lights up here could be changing colors in the plasma way, but they're not working. I don't understand. So, but that's right. That kind of thing, production value gets better day by day. Day by day. So I did have a random encounter today, and I posted about this on my Instagram story, but also in the Discord chat. So my afternoon adventure lately has been going to. Okay, somebody else. See, Inner Light was talking about that this morning. Stray says, I realize I have the same picture you have hanging there of the acolyte. Yes. And I was talking about that this morning briefly. I think it was this morning, was it not? That we were talking about the acolyte back here. And we should talk about that one day in detail. I've got several, the accolade. That's right. I was like, that's not quite right. The acolyte isn't quite right. It's the accolade, because the accolade is the accolade of knighthood. Right. It's the accolade. And so that is the accolade. And it's very inspirational to me. It was this morning. Right. Yeah. So we'll have to talk about the accolade specifically, and also potentially some other things that I have hanging up in my house. And I put that there to look at because it is so inspirational to me. And I think there's a lot to talk about there about the feminine influence on the masculine, because I think what you're looking at here is knighthood being the feminine imposition upon the masculine, right? And so, what is it that makes a knight and so forth? And I think there's a lot to say about that. It influences me. And you also may be able to tell, actually, that this has been extremely influential to me in Rabavania as well, because the quasi-religious order of damsels was inspired by this painting, or this is a print, but this painting right here. Because when you look at Charity, this plush toy right here, now her face has got to change, but here's Charity, and what is she wearing? She is wearing an outfit very similar to what the damsel in the Accolade is wearing, right? So the order of damsels that she belongs to in the Tales of Rabavania, highly inspired by that. Inner Light also asks, do I have the Godspeed one too? Isn't that one Godspeed? Godspeed? The one that I don't have that I really want is the one where she is tracing his silhouette onto the castle wall. But I believe that's Godspeed. Is that right, Inner Light? Give me a check on that. I believe that one's Godspeed. Yep, that's the one. Excellent. Inner Light's confirming that. So, yep, those are the two that I have framed up here in the office. I think of them as being very inspirational. So we should talk about that in some other live stream, some kind of dedicated live stream about my ideas about the relationship between the feminine and the masculine, and the relationship between the feminine and knighthood, and that relationship. Because I think about that a lot, and I incorporate it into the stories, and it incorporates into Rabavania as well. So yes, I'm glad everybody recognizes it. And I don't get to look at that one. That's my favorite one. I don't get to look at it quite so much because it's behind me, I realized once I hung it up. But now that I'm live streaming, everybody can see it, and it's had comments. And when I'm looking at the screen, of course, I'm seeing a video of myself, so I can see it behind me. So yes, I think about that a lot. It's very influential on me. So my random encounter today, My random encounter today was on my afternoon adventure when I was walking on my 3.5 mile hike, and I was walking one direction. I was walking down this way on one side of the road, and I turned around and came back. And as I was walking back in front of my neighbor's house, I looked down, wasn't looking at a screen, so I was like looking around and looking around, looked down, and there on the side of the road was a rabbit, eyes looking up at me, right? Except for the problem was that this rabbit had obviously been hit by a car. It had been hit in the rear area of the body. So the head and all of that, it actually wasn't all that badly damaged as far as a car hit might go, but clearly that's what happened. And the front end of it, and the head was still pristine. And when I looked down, I saw the rabbit, I saw its head, its eyes were open, and it was looking straight at me. And I was like, oh my God, look at this. And then I went, oh my God, it's dead, right? It's been hit by a car. And this is not actually the first time that I've had an encounter with a rabbit while I was on the afternoon adventure. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, something like that, I was out on the walk in a different area, and I put this out on Instagram that I found this really cool hill that looked like it could have some type of tomb in it, or it should have a standing stone on it or something like that. And as I approached it, there was, I suppose, a warren of rabbits that was there. And I walked up, and they all kind of scattered as I walked up, because I was walking, let me go up to the top of this hill. And they all kind of scattered and just ran off in a whole bunch of directions. And I thought that was pretty neat. So this is encounter 2 with rabbits, but this one was much more sad. I looked down at it, and it was dead. And I was like, well, what do I do? Oh my God. I couldn't just leave it there, right? I was like, I don't know, especially when I saw it looking at me, it seemed like looking right at me with its eyes. And so I decided, well, I can't leave it here, to decay and everything on the side of the road. So I buried it. So I took some time this afternoon. I grabbed a shovel, I grabbed a wheelbarrow, and I went out and I dug a grave for it on the sort of the forest line, the tree line right behind my house. I figured that sort of on the tree line would be a good place for the grave. I thought about places up closer to my house, but something told me that something more natural and closer to the tree line or the trees was better. And so I took a shovel and I dug a grave for it in the tree line, then went out with a wheelbarrow and got the rabbit, and then buried it and put rocks for its grave. So now it's in the backyard under the tree line looking at my house. And I mean, this is a happy place for rabbits, right? I mean, I don't really, some people might consider that like an ill omen, right? That all of a sudden there was this, but I feel like it would have been an ill omen if I had passed by and just left the rabbit to decay there. But this is, if you're going to be a rabbit, I suppose the best place to go for eternal rest, right? I hope would be my house, right? So I dug the grave. So this is a happy place for rabbits. I hope there will be a good place. And it was actually by a place where you can go with a path behind my house. So if I go out in that direction, be able to walk by the grave. So that happened. That's like the second encounter with rabbits this week on the afternoon adventure. I don't know what that means, but I don't know. It was very striking to me. It struck me, and I was like, I can't just pass by. I can't do anything. I've got to bury this rabbit. So I did. Godspeed. Exactly. Godspeed. And rest in peace. Godspeed. The mother of the mirror in the Tales of Rapavania is the goddess that the rabbits worship. So I didn't have a lake or a mirror to bury the rabbit by. If I did, I would do that. But maybe the mother of the mirror welcoming around it. So that happened to me today. I don't know what that means. Probably nothing. That was my random encounter. What else? Oh, hey, Cambridge 07. Hello, welcome. Good to see you this evening. Welcome. We're just here being chill. Oh, wait a minute. I actually see that you're coming in from Twitch. Did that come up? Welcome, especially to Cambridge, because I believe you are the first chat that I have ever seen come in from Twitch. I just decided to connect Twitch and see what that was about. Might as well, since I'm streaming here. So I'm so glad you found me. Welcome to anyone who is watching on Twitch, but welcome, Cambridge. I'm so glad you're here. That's kind of cool. First Twitch comment. Let's see. We talked a lot about geekdom last night, and I was thinking on the afternoon adventure today about geek culture. What does that mean? What does geek culture mean? Because we talked about what geekdom and geek thought kind of means to me, and we talked about that yesterday. But geek culture is kind of another thing. Does anybody have? Let's put this in the chat. I'll give my thoughts here as well. But has anyone had any particular thoughts about geekdom that I gave out last night, or what's going on in geek culture? Yes, that's right. We have our own culture now, right? We geeks have our own culture. And let's see. So let me try to organize my thoughts on that. Because it goes along with what I think about the internet and what the existence of the internet, what has become the internet. Because we had talked about in another live stream, the idea, my thoughts, that we have a very, the internet used to not be very corporate. Now today, the internet's very corporate. We got a lot of corporate internet. And of course, that's come with great advantages. That also has disadvantages. But I remember when the internet was not a corporate thing. The internet was something that was new and that was kind of hacky, right? The internet was kind of the Wild West. It was the frontier. It was where corporate things did not happen, right? Which is just completely opposite now. And I kind of have some ideas related to that, or that idea kind of goes over and relates to kind of what I was thinking about geek culture and what's happened to that. Because I do remember when geek culture was something that was rather underground, right? Or actually very underground. Star Wars was something that was not mainstream. I remember in high school, we were studying archetypes. And so the teacher did have us take a look at Star Wars. But at that time, you couldn't guarantee that people had seen Star Wars. Now everybody's seen Star Wars, or close to everybody, right? But even at that time, whether or not somebody had seen Star Wars was not a given, or even knew what that was. Now it's mainstream. But even when I was in high school, that wasn't necessarily the case. So we've seen a mainstreaming of geek culture, and that has been a fantastic thing in many regards. We have gotten some fantastic things out of that. Like if we think about particularly things that require a lot of money, and the things that require the most amount of money, probably in the Geekverse. Well, video games is probably still one of the big ones. Video games is one of the big ones. Development of a video game, a major video game, that's very expensive. But also in the mega $1 million budget is obviously big movies and big TV shows. And, all this kind of got kicked off, I suppose, with Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy. And we've talked about that before. There's so much about it that I liked. And especially looking back on that, having Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, we can talk about all kinds of things that we might not have liked. I can, or nitpicks and things like that. But especially today, look, at the situation. Somebody was talking about, we used to be really happy when we were going to get a TV or a movie adaptation of our favorite book or comic book or whatever. Now we live in fear. And, as a general principle or as a tweet, I mean, that makes sense. We've gotten some good ones, but there's a lot of stuff like, oh my God, that kicked, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings kicked all this off, at least in my mind, when we started to enter sort of mainstream geekdom as something that's mainstream. And there have been, the Harry Potter series was, massively successful, and everybody loved that. Marvel through Endgame, at least. I don't really follow comic books and Marvel all that much, but I watch the movies. And, well, actually, I don't follow the comic books at all, so I'm not a comic book person. But I did follow those movies because they were so big at the time. Everybody loved them. I knew lots of people who were into them, and they just loved every new movie that was coming out. And so I was like, I got to go see some of these movies and be a part of this because it's just so big. And it seemed like that Marvel, up until Endgame, we can talk about yes, no, maybe, whatever past that. I'm just talking about through everything that built and then hit the crescendo of Endgame, was so big. It was a cultural phenomenon and everybody was loving it. But my skepticism, I do have a general skepticism of what we might call corporate geekdom, right? There was an influx of stuff like, hey, we can do some amazing things. We did get some amazing things out of it. Other people might be able to put in some other things that did actually go fantastic. We were talking about the Hunger Games. It may have been the Discord server. We were talking about the Hunger Games. Or maybe it was on one of the Friday night shows. In fact, the more I work on Discord, the more excited about it I get. I'm going to put a link to the Discord in the chat right now that's valid for an hour. So we'll put that in there. I love Discord. I want to do much more with it. But so maybe the Hunger Games, there were some other things that were just fantastic that happened. But then at some point, somebody realized that, hey, there is a lot of money in this. And then that's when you get sort of a corporate takeover of geekdom. And I'm not so sure about that. I talk about being constructive here, which is different from always being positive, because here's something that I'm kind of skeptical of. I'm skeptical of today's corporate geekdom. And I think that's what kind of made me skeptical. It made me skeptical of the Rings of Power. When I heard Amazon was making something in Middle Earth, I was like, well, I'm skeptical, because I'm skeptical in general of corporate geekdom today. I was also skeptical of the House of the Dragons, but actually I took the risk on both those shows, and House of the Dragon I thought was fantastic. So I guess that's an extreme success in my opinion. Game of Thrones was a big deal up to about 6, and I loved that, and I've been loving House of the Dragon. So, there are successes. But in general, when you talk about corporate geekdom today, I'm skeptical. And so I kind of think that we need more underground stuff to kind of get back outside, to rally geeks and geekdom outside of the corporate structure again. What can we do? And we should be able to do some amazing things because of the internet, and the empowerment of computers. Individuals have never been more empowered as far as what we can create. Now, there is an issue with something like discoverability because of algorithms and social media and things like that. But it's a bit of an aside at this point. I'm just saying that our productivity should be at an all-time high, and our creativity should be at an all-time high because we are so empowered as individuals right now. So I kind of think about, well, now, corporate geekdom is one thing, and that's kind of mainstream. But where is the underground geekdom like we had on the internet, like when the internet was underground, or when geekdom was something that was underground in general prior to, let's say, the release of the Peter Jackson trilogy, right? When Star Wars was obviously extremely popular and, out there, but it wasn't mainstream yet, and all of that happened later. So sometimes I lament the corporate nature of geekdom, because I remember also sitting around with people like playing Dungeons and Dragons or other game or something like that, and a friend said, I just really wish that this were mainstream. We talking about something about acceptance, which I've talked about, that my philosophy of geekdom has to do with that. Well, we just embrace the things that we like, and we don't worry about what other people think. But of course, a lot of people do think about what other people think. And of course, that can be a very important part of life. And of course, that was what my friend was expressing at that time and was saying, well, I wish this were more mainstream and we didn't have to, receive ridicule or whatever it is for enjoying these things. And we have that now to a large degree, right? With the mainstreaming of geekdom and corporate geekdom. Well, a lot more stuff has become mainstream, but that has come at a great cost. That's come at a very high cost. And so you have to kind of be careful when you wonder about, should this go mainstream? Maybe underground kinds of things. I kind of think about, what about a return to kind of the underground nature of geekdom with the nature of, with all of the empowerment of computers and the things that individuals can do today, if we can connect and do things. I used to say, this was years ago, I was even saying that, and I think I read this someplace, but it really stuck with me. And I read this like a dozen years ago or something. It was like, everything that George Lucas did to create the original Star Wars film can be done in a college dorm room today because of computers, right? Now, you got the actors in the set, but talking about replicating other things, I was like, yeah, you know what? That's right. We should be extremely empowered. This should be the golden age of underground geekdom, right? Because of our empowerment with computers. Anything that was done, if you look at something in the 70s or the 80s, or even most of the 90s, like, gee, everything that's become digitized, disadvantages to that, but also great advantages. And one of those advantages is that we should be able to do more stuff. And regardless of what's happening in the corporate nature of geekdom, because we can't influence that. We can't change that. I talked about that in another video. What's going on with major billion-dollar companies, and there's so much money there. It's a wash in money. Everyone's concerned with the money side of things rather than the love of things, right? I'm sure that's a big issue I think that we have. But we can't do anything about that. The only thing we control is what we're doing. So, in my opinion, the answer is embrace the underground geekdom again. Embrace the underground geekdom, and let's try to do the kinds of things we love and create the kinds of things we love in the underground way, in kind of the original intention of the internet. We've got some comments here. So Inner Light says, the other art print I have up, going back to the art prints, the other art print I have up is the one with the knight in silver armor with the 2 platinum dragons in the background. I don't know that one. Offhand. Inner Light says, I can't find that one online, but I think it's called The Quest or The Call, something like that. Interesting. If you find it, post it in Discord. Keith says, interesting thoughts on corporate geekdom. Marvel creating a universe for mass appeal versus some of the more socially progressive plot lines going back as far as the 1960s in Marvel is something to ponder. Yes. Now that's not something that I know a lot about because, like I said, I didn't follow Marvel comic books. That's still not necessarily my area. What I know about Marvel and comic books and Iron Man and Captain America and the Hulk and things like that predominantly comes from the Marvel movies Endgame and before. And actually, I thought when Endgame, that's a terrible name for a movie if you're going to be continuing things. Like when I thought Endgame came about, I thought Endgame was the end. And I think it seems like, for me, as a non-comic book aficionado, just somebody who was enjoying those movies casually because other people love them. You want to be a part of things that other people really like. And when I saw everybody really liking those movies and like, wow, this is amazing, I wanted to be a part of that, so I want to watch the movies as well. So I can't comment on it, but I thought that it was an amazing arc and something to be studied. An amazing arc from whatever, wasn't it Iron Man that was the first movie? I could be wrong about that, but Iron Man all the way through Endgame, I think is a monumental achievement. And for many reasons, but one of them is that it seemed like to me, watching on social media, that they continued to deliver things that the audience just loved. If you were a fan of the Marvel Universe, it seemed like every movie that came out on my social media feeds were my friends going, whoa, just went and saw it, or I'm going to go see it tonight. I'm so excited. doing, having a party, going out to eat, then going to see the movie or whatever, and then getting out of the movie and being like, oh my God, that was fantastic. I loved it. And so then I was like, well, then I got to go see this too and figure out at least what, experience part of it is. So giving your fans what they wanted, I'm not saying there wasn't misfires or whatever on any particular movie, but I'm talking about the overall arc. Seems like they gave the fans what they wanted and they loved it. And that's so important. I think that was a monumental success. That seemed to me, following as an outsider, a Marvel outsider, following those movies as an arc through the crescendo that hit Endgame was just incredible. Now, somebody else will have to come in and talk about the plot lines you're talking about and the social progressive nature of that going back into the 60s, because I'm not familiar with that. That would be a very interesting topic. I would love to talk about that with somebody, maybe on an interview or something like that, because there's probably a lot I could learn, because that does sound like a very interesting topic. Inner Light says, I heard Endgame was good. Never saw it though. I think I was too busy at work at the time. Well, yeah, that happens to all of us. I remember making a special times, taking a special opportunity to go and see Endgame, because I perceived it as this, the climax, the crescendo of this major cultural phenomenon that was, the geek sphere, the Geekverse, of course, but also had such mainstream capture appeal that had gone through that. But now, it keeps going. I actually thought it was over as an outsider, of the Marvel universe. I thought that, well, I had better go see Endgame, because that means that the Marvel whole story thing, whatever, is over. And of course, it's kept going. And I don't think I've watched any of them outside of Endgame. But anyway, that's because I was just a casual movie fan, but one who really appreciates what they did early movies through Endgame. I think it'll be studied for a long time. That was great success, because they delivered what the audience wanted and made that happen in a way that completely contrasted with what Star Wars was doing at the time, right? When I was watching, of course, I was much more intimately connected with the Star Wars side of things than I was with the Marvel stuff. I was the casual but very interested outsider who was also involved, watching the Marvel movies and things like that. I'm much more invested in Star Wars in general, though not invested in the sequel trilogy. But watching the difference, because those were kind of overlapping, right? And you saw that, man, Marvel is just hitting on all thrusters, boom. Every time this movie comes out, people are so excited. And then the absolute opposite was going on with Star Wars, it seems like, at least in my social media feeds in that particular trajectory. So it was interesting to compare those things. Keith says, another new thing, at least for me, in the mainstream geekdom is the amount of professional DMs and GMs that I see online or advertised for cruises. Oh, interesting. I haven't seen that. Professional DMs and GMs that advertise as for cruises. Now, I have seen the gaming website, and I forget its name right now, but I know there is one site where you can, sign up and basically play to have a Dungeons and Dragons game. I also know that the idea in general of paying for someone to DM a game or GM a game in general is highly controversial in the gaming sphere. Like, is that something that you should ever do? And I understand the arguments both ways, right? I understand the people would be like, I would never do that. I would never pay somebody to run a game for me. But on the other hand, I do completely understand the desire for it. So I think there is a space for that, especially if somebody's really good at it. If they're taking a lot of time to set things up and plan the adventure and things like that, and they're going to give you a great experience, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. If you can give me we've talked about doing one shots and things like that. If somebody could give you an absolutely incredible role-playing experience in 2 or 3 hours, and you just sit down and play, and it was incredible, would you pay for it? Well, I mean, I even might. But what you're talking about right here is this professional DM and GMs that are online or advertised for cruises. I got to check into this cruise thing. That seems kind of, well, is it crazy? I mean, I guess I can see why somebody would do that. But having Yeah, because also, I mean, you put professional in quotes here, and I would agree with that as well. Like, what does it actually mean to be a professional DM? Well, of course, in some sense of the word, being professional just means you're paid to do it, right? And so there might be a lot of professional DMs who aren't even that good. But oh, you're gonna see if you can find a link. We'll check that out. Thank you. I bet I can if we can Google it or something like that. That's interesting. Yeah, I was thinking that it's so crazy of what has happened. We're talking about the mainstreaming of things. Like, gee, I wish, thinking 20 or 30 years ago, if somebody said, gee, I wish that Dungeons and Dragons would go mainstream. Because what was Dungeons and Dragons back then? Oh, that was the weird satanic thing that people did in the sewer, right? Well, maybe we loved it in the Geekverse, but now what would happen to Dungeons and Dragons if it is something that's mainstream and something that everybody does? Well, it's going to change things. It can't, whether it's good, whether the change is good or whether the change is bad. I mean, everybody's going to have a different opinion on that. But if you are loving Dungeons and Dragons, the point I'm making, that if you are loving Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever it was, when it's still this really underground thing, and there are some people who are in the know and there are other people who are not, and you're going, man, I wish this would go mainstream. There are going to be a lot of advantages to it going mainstream. There are also going to be costs to it going mainstream, and then that's what we got to balance. Like, we're basically looking at mainstream Dungeons and Dragons today, right? So, whether that's good, whether that's bad, I think some people had different opinions with the one D&D when we looked at that the other morning. I suppose one D&D is the most mainstream type of D&D that we have ever had. Is that good? Is that bad? Everybody's going to have to decide for themselves. Stray says, true geekdom is like that feeling you get when Samwise is asked why he's rationing the bread, and he says so hopefully, for the journey home. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes. There's hope. There's hope, I mean. Yes. Hope is so important. I know what it's like to be without hope or to have lost the faith. That's not good. It's not good. That's why, like with knighthood, when I'm talking about knights and Rabavania and things like that, hope is an important virtue, right? Inner Light says mainstream isn't as good. Oh, mainstream isn't as good. It's one of the reasons why OSR is growing like crazy. I can believe it. I mean, I can completely understand the rejection of the mainstream, with the rejection of the corporate geekdom culture and that kind of stuff. And you're like, wait a minute, I got to get back to the underground. Like, where's the underground again? Maybe the mainstream kind of stuff wasn't as good. And there was, like I said, great benefits to it, but then there are great negatives as well. Like the amount of hope that I have that, well, House the Dragon. Now, if you didn't like it, then that's fine. But just for me personally, that one did restore some hope to me. I really enjoyed that show. And it could be for you a different show. So, I was without hope on a lot of things, corporate geekdom and things like that. But it seems like, to me, the House of the Dragon was done with a lot of care. So that one restored a little bit of hope to me. That one restored hope to me. But on the whole, yeah, you're talking about maybe it isn't good if your hobby that you love so much all of a sudden goes mainstream. Well, all right. We've been going for about an hour here. I am going to wind down because I am going to try to do about 30 more minutes worth of work and then be back up and heed the call to adventure in the morning. But I feel like I need to try to get those YouTube things, try to finish my big rocks. Don't like to do that after the morning grind, after the wind down, but I feel like I should do it and make me feel better and then try to get to bed so I can start that. It's been a delight talking to you. I have really enjoyed this. I always enjoy the conversation. And that's why I started this, because I like to talk about these things. And I was just sitting in my house alone, and I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if I could talk about stuff in the Geekverse with somebody? And so I decided, that's one of the reasons I said, well, what if I started a live stream? And then I can talk about it with all of you. So I really appreciate your being here. You are helping my life. You too, Keith. You too, Keith. Oh, Keith says, yeah, you too. Have a great time. And we'll wrap up with Stray here says, I play OSR at a table of stinky old men, but it's a riot hearing their stories from D&D back in the day. Well, cool. I hope it's fun. Sounds fun. Could be a great time. All right, so I'm going to bring up Goodnight Sword.
Goodnight Sword, written by
And say goodnight,
E.H.
Paula.
Robinson.
Good night,
Illustrated by Adam M.
Have a
Boxford.
wonderful evening. I'll see you in the morning. And happy
Narrated
Thanksgiving.
by Brianna
Happy
De
Thanksgiving.
Silva.
See you in the morning.
Part of
But
the
if you're
Tales
going
of
someplace
Ravagenia.
else, go be with family. Happy Thanksgiving.
Goodnight Sword. Goodnight Gourd. Goodnight guards who keep us all safe. Goodnight Dagger. And the Iron Hauberk. Goodnight Cheese. Goodnight Keys. Goodnight Elm. And goodnight Helm. Goodnight Squire. And goodnight Liar. Goodnight Shield. And good night to the lance only the gallant wield. Good night, banner. And good night, jewel. Good night, gruel. Good night, knights. And good night to the old soldier who says time's been cruel. Good night, maiden fair, whose favor I bear. Good night, rabbits everywhere.